Nice. We do have like the video playing, and we also have like a scrubbing like timeline thing. This is so cool. We can preview the media that we want to publish as a daily here, and it even made the change, like, instead of calling it task, it now calls it discipline. That's pretty cool. To immediately get up and running with Claude Code, following are the two concepts we need to be aware of. Concept 1, make use of the Claude.md file, and concept 2, make use of the plan, execute and commit workflow. Let's first talk about the Claude.md file. I have Claude Code installed as a plugin in VS Code, all right? And here we have an empty folder open called the Dailies Publisher, all right? So we're going to build an app that essentially helps us to publish dailies. Now, when you're building software using Claude Code, you'll be using multiple Claude codes in the same project. There is going to be a bit of context that each of these Claude codes would need to be aware of as to what we are building, and in this case, we want to make use of like Python as our language that we use to build this application. Those types of project-based context is needed by each Claude Code sessions that you have in your project, right? And it's going to be a bit redundant for us to give the same context essentially to each of these Claude codes. That's where this Claude.md file comes in. It's essentially like a prefix prompt, if you will, that you inject on top of any new Claude Code session. Imagine we say, I want you to build a Dailies publishing app. It is supposed to be a PySide 6 app built using Python. The widget is basically used in a VFX and animation studio for publishing the video of the work that is done by individual artists so that the supervisors and leads can review it. This is a desktop application. I also want the database to be like a simple SQLite database. So this is basically the high level context of the project. Now, without this context, if we just directly ask the application to get started by creating a simple widget, we will not be able to steer it in the direction that we want it to go. Now, this project level context, if you had to like copy it and paste it again here before you say, now create the backend side of things. I want you to set up like a simple MySQLite database that has provisions for storing dailies, and by dailies, an object that has properties. Now the main property is the path to the media where it is located on disk. This is a prompt that you would probably give to the backend, right? This second part, right? But this context is still very relevant and is very important for Claude to know that we are building this Dailies publishing app. Without that context, it might start building some weird things. It might start steering away. So you can think of this initial prompt that you give here, right? Like this initial prompt that is injected as somewhat like an anchor for the context that you're giving to each of these Claude Code sessions. So what we're going to do is we're going to essentially like ask Claude itself to create the Claude.md file for us. The beginning of the prompt, we'll just say, I want you to create a Claude.md file for me. Following is the context that I want to be present in the Claude.md file. So now it's doing its thing. You'll be seeing that a new file called Claude.md is going to be created with the context that we provided. Cool. It looks like Claude Code created the Claude.md file for us. Let's open it and see. So here it says, the name of the project, Dailies Publisher, and it says a desktop application for VFX and animation studios that lets artists publish video dailies of their work for supervisors and leads to review. Perfect. And domain context in the VFX and animation studios, a daily is a rendered video of in progress work submitted. This is so cool, right? Like, we just gave it hints and it is able to like do the meticulous work of wording it properly. Cool. So it basically created, this overview of our project, and this basically like, all of this it's essentially like, taking all of this text and adding it in the beginning, right? All of this is going to be pasted in the beginning, and then like whatever you say, like, all the things that you ask it to build, create a empty main window for me with just a button saying upload dailies. All of this context is available for the agent, right? It understands what we are building, so we are able to steer it right. So that's essentially like what this Claude.md file does. It's highly recommended that you have like at least a simple Claude.md file, like, with the vision of what you want to build first. And a thing to note though is don't overload it with a lot of unnecessary context, because you're essentially like, filling up your context window with this Claude.md file. some people just go overboard and like, you know, have really bloated Claude.md file. It has all the context and everything in the world. So at the end of the day, using all these AI agents is all about context engineering, right? It's context management. You need to be cognizant of what context you're providing your AI assistants. So the things in the Claude.md file should be project context that every Claude Code agent would find useful. So that's essentially what a Claude.md file is, and you know, that's how you basically use it. So now let's talk about the plan, execute, commit workflow. This will save you a lot of time as you're steering the AI agents, all right? Instead of directly jumping into executing things, right? So you can actually do that without planning. You can just go here. I want you to build front end of this application. I want a simple, minimalistic, modern UI. It needs to have like this big button that could be used to upload the dailies. And once the video is uploaded, it should have provision to provide metadata about the uploaded media. For now, I just want you to build only the front end. Don't do any back end work. So I can just ask it to do this. Okay. So if I just press go, it will go ahead and build a widget for us. But the challenge here is like, you know, if you just directly execute, what's going to happen is it's going to just go ahead and say execute, and it'll just like, let's say, builds that widget, got that button, and you know, it's got some styling. When we said we wanted to look modern and minimalistic, it could be interpreted in all these different ways, right? So maybe modern could be like a very bright color theme, CSS, or like maybe the button could look somewhat quirky. We don't exactly know how the AI agent is going to execute it, because by nature, AI agents are non-deterministic, meaning each time you give the same prompt to the same AI model, it's going to execute it in a different way. Rather than directly asking the AI agent to execute things, it's always good to first use the plan mode. Switch to the plan mode by pressing Shift Tab. When you're in plan mode, what it's going to do is it's going to create a plan for you, like as to what the AI agent is thinking, and it's going to basically give you the plan, right? You can review the plan, and sometimes it even asks questions as to just to clarify what we have in mind. Based on our clarifications, it's going to come up with a plan. We can review it, and once we're happy, we can ask it to then go ahead and execute. Let's ask it to first come up with a plan now. Okay, so I'm just going to say come up with a plan to do this. Okay, so let's ask it to come up with a plan. All right, it looks like it has come up with a plan. Let's review the plan. Dailies Publisher front end only UI plan. Okay, so the context is the repo currently contains a Claude.md. Okay, it's front end only. All right, cool. All right, so it looks good to me. Based on the complexity of the software you're building, take your time in, you know, reviewing the plan, refining it, so that you catch like, you know, critical ideas before they steer away from the idea that you have in mind. Since we are okay with the plan, now we can say yes and auto accept. This is where we're moving on to that next step, which is basically execution. All right, it looks like it has finished building the widget for us. So we can even see the files that it has created. So it's got created a folder called Dailies Publisher. It's got UI, and you know, created the main window. So that's pretty cool. And you know, it has all these like files that it generated. It even has this app.py to launch the application. That's pretty cool. So let's now ask it to run the application. Yes, go ahead and launch the application for me. Cool. Here is our application's user interface. So here it just has this nice minimalistic interface where you can, you know, click and it opens even like a file browser. You can even drag and drop media into this. So here we have a video. Oh, see, it even highlights, and just click on it and it's playing. The audio is playing, like, but the video is not like actually coming through, but you can ask it to maybe fix that. But here on the right side, you see all this metadata, right? So you can see you can give it the short name, you know, drop down options. So probably this should be called like discipline instead of task. Cool. The statuses and notes that you could provide. And then finally you can just click on publish. That's amazing, right? So what we'll do is I'll just like ask it maybe just to do these small fixes. Instead of calling it task, I'll just ask it to call discipline. And I want like, it'll be nice if we can play the video, right? It does play the audio. Why not, you know, ask it to play the video as well? So let's just do those two things alone. Yes, the user interface looks good. When I dragged and dropped a video on the interface, it went to the next screen, and there was a play button, and when I clicked on it, it only plays the audio. The video is not like playing in the play area. I want you to make sure that the video also plays, and it'll be good to have like a timeline below the player so that I can scrub through the video as it plays, you know, so that I can play from different points in time. Also, in the metadata area, I want you to rename task metadata to be called as discipline. Let's ask it to do it. Awesome. It even launched the application again for us. I like how, Claude Code is proactive in that way. All right, so let's drop some video into this. Let's drop this. Okay, cool. Nice. We do have like the video playing, and we also have like a scrubbing like timeline thing. This is so cool. We can preview the media that we want to publish as a daily here, and it even made that change, like, instead of calling it task, it now calls it discipline. That's pretty cool. The next step in our workflow is the commit stage. Okay, this is very important, especially when you're using AI coding agents. The code just gets generated so fast. Lots of code gets generated, and at times, if we are not having complete control over the agent, it can even remove files for you, right? Like if you just give it a prompt that maybe like the agent didn't quite understand properly, or maybe we didn't communicate our idea clearly, it could easily go and like delete files here, or like rename files, or like basically it can think that implementing the next idea that we gave would be better if the files are named a bit differently, right? So just to be careful, as soon as you have something that is aligned to your vision, commit it, right? Like git commit and push. And the cool thing is you can set up the necessary connections in Claude Code to directly connect with GitHub and run the git commands for you. You don't need to like manually do anything. So for example, here I'll just ask Claude Code to create a git repo and push this to my GitHub as a new project, right? Looks good. I want you to now create a GitHub project for this repo, and then I want you to like do a git commit on this project and push it to GitHub. All right, it has created a GitHub project for us, and it did a git commit and push, and it committed all this work that we have done now, and it has pushed it to the repo. So let's go there and see how it looks. So here it is, Dailies Publisher. It's a public repo. You can go and check it out, and you can see all the code that we have generated. And basically now we have a working UI for a Dailies publishing app that can be used in a VFX and animation studio, right? So we still need to do the backend side of things, but we have something tangible that we could start using. So that's essentially the workflow. So start with planning, and then once you're happy with the plan, you can iterate on this as well. And once you're happy, then do the execution. You can iterate here as well, and you can always go to the planning mode whenever you want to do something major, and then you can always come back and execute. And then once you have something that is close to your vision, something is materializing, make sure to commit it, right? So commit and push, it's always safe. So yes, these are the two concepts that will help us to immediately get up and running with Claude Code. Thanks for watching.